right, and we are live. Thank you guys so much for coming along to Trade Titans episode 2. We're here with our special guest today, Dan. Thank you so much for coming through, Dan. We are blessed to have you. Excited to talk some Dynasty trades with you today. Let's just dive on right in, and we'll intro you to the people in just a few minutes. But first, we've got a 12-team Superflex, PPR, start 11. I got Marvin Harrison Jr. on one side, moving for J.K. Dobbins, Luther Burden, Malik Washington, and a 27 second-round pick. What do you think about this trade, Dan, and which side would you be leaning?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna, even though it's been a little disappointing, and he hasn't quite been what we expected him to be. I think I still would take Marv. He's so young. Like he's probably got 10 years of football ahead of him. I'm sure at some point he's going to figure things out. Maybe he's never going to be the elite Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson type guy, but I probably would take him. The only way I could almost see taking it the other side is if you are a contender and you're desperate kind of at running back, like your rest of your team's solid, maybe you're like, I need, because Dobbins has been pretty good. Probably not going to be a long-term asset as much, but I think overall, I think I'd still take Marv.
Still taking Marv. I just want to springboard off this one. Obviously, like you mentioned, Marv is such a polarizing asset in the Dynasty community. There's some people that are completely done with him already, and there's other folks that are still on the no, Marv's a generational talent. I want him on my roster as a cornerstone. Where do you land in this camp? Are you still buying Marv? Are you selling Marv? Do you own Marv across any of your leagues? Where do you land with him?
Yeah, I actually don't have him anywhere. I had one league where I had the third and fourth pick last year, and got Marvin. Caleb Williams went first, and I got Neighbors and Daniels. So I was happy with that. So yeah, I don't have him anywhere, but I think I would still be buying him again. Like, I mean, if he stays and does what he's doing now for the rest of his career, yeah, like that's kind of disappointing. But I think things could change, and maybe it's going to take a scenario, the scenery change of new coaches or new quarterback or whatever. But I think I'd still be buying him. I think I'm guessing for a lot his price has kind of dropped enough where you wouldn't get what you would hope to for him. So yeah, I think I'd probably still be buying. He's just so young still.
Yep. Yeah, I understand that. I think I'm tentative on Marv. I'm not exactly a buyer. I don't own him anywhere. Like you said, I also have liquidated all shares. However, for this price, I'm also not a big Luther Burden guy, so this doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. Springboarding off that, where do you land on that Chicago wide receiver room? Like DJ Moore, obviously, we had high hopes for him. Turned out to be kind of a whole pile of nothing this year. Luther Burden's getting himself warmed up there. Colston Loveland hasn't delivered the way we wanted to. Really, only Roma Dunze has shown us anything of promise. Where do you land on Burden? Where do you land on Moore? And where do you land on Adunze?
Yeah, they're tough. I kind of almost view them similar to the Packers, where I feel like I like a lot of the Packers guys, but it's just hard because they don't really focus as much. I think the Bears maybe do a little bit more with Adunze. It seems like they're going to, but yeah, it's tough to imagine like Burden, barring injuries or someone getting DJ Moore getting traded or something. It's hard to imagine him stepping up and being good enough that like in this situation where it feel like it's worth the trade. Um, maybe things work out for him in some way, but yeah, I think it's tough to imagine him just doing enough that he surpasses what we think Marv could potentially do, even if Marv doesn't quite reach the potential. So yeah, I'm not super in on Burden. If his price was low enough, I'd be fine taking a shot at him because I think he had showed some promise in college. But yeah, I'm not super excited.
When you say low enough, what do you mean? What would you be willing to send for Luther Burden right now in Dynasty? Let's say you got a little bit of a rebuilding, retooling roster, trying to get younger. Do you feel comfortable sending a second round pick that's, let's say, projected early to mid, or is that still out of your price range?
Yeah, probably not an early. Like if I was a really bad team, I wouldn't trade out my early second to go get him. If I had a late second, like if I was a rebuilder, but I had someone that had someone else's late second, maybe I'd do that. But yeah, I'm probably more in the mid to late second range, more sort of late.
Yep, I could see that. All right, we're going to dive right on into our next trade here. We've got a 12-team Superflex PPR start 10 this time, so a little bit shallower than the previous one. Chase Brown plus a third round pick on one side, moving for DeAndre Swift, Woody Marks, in a 26 second. So essentially, you're getting a nice little pick swap here, but you're also taking on Chase Brown versus Swift and Marks. Where do you land on the players in these trades? I mean, obviously, we got a ton to talk about with Woody Marks and, what his potential might be, but go ahead and take this one away here.
Yeah, I think I probably lean the Swift Marks in the second. Maybe it depends a little bit exactly what the second and third look like. If it's a late second and an early third, then that doesn't really make much of a difference. But if it's the other way around and it's an early second and late third, for sure, I think I lean the other side. I've never been super high on Chase Brown. I've gotten to a point. I got to a point kind of mid-year where I was telling people like now's actually a good chance to buy him because once Flacco got in there, like those first game or so, the efficiency just like skyrocketed for him. He wasn't getting like the volume, and he still really isn't getting the volume. He might never get it,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, they're just so much. He's just so much more efficient with Flacco in there versus Browning. So.
Yeah, that's been an interesting one, I think. Like, I didn't expect the Joe Flacco revolution to be as dominant as it has seemed for fantasy football, right? Like, maybe I'm a hometown guy. I love University of Washington, born and raised in Seattle, so I've always had a little bit of a sweet spot for Jake Browning, but yeah, Flacco's really turned this around for those Bengals pass catchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. But I think even that, like, I think Swift is. I've actually never been huge on Swift either, but I kind of almost. I don't know how much older he is than Brown, but I kind of almost view them somewhat similar. And I like Woody Marks. I actually have a lot of shares of his. Just the fact that they traded up for him in the draft kind of showed me that they were going to want. They have been.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I think overall, then, like, I think interesting question that goes along with the Texans, right, is what is the future of this backfield? I talk about it a lot, and I wanted to pick your brain on this one. Older running backs, right? We had R.J. Harvey drafted at 24. Woody Marks is also 24 years old. Where are you landing on drafting these older backs? Like, I know you just said you have some stock of Woody Marks, and you expect, him to be a relevant player for them. Do you see the Texans going out and potentially signing a Breece Hall in the offseason or bringing in maybe a Ken Walker if he's a free agent and Woody Marks' value goes back down? Or do you think he has what it takes to potentially take over as the lead back, even though he's primarily a pass catcher?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think, and part of it is the age. I think part of it's the draft capital. I don't necessarily look at him as being like, oh, he's going to be a next, top five, running back and dynasty running back. But and I'm typically, trying to get out on any running back for the most part, except those elite guys after a few years. And especially the older ones. I don't think it matters as much, like a 22 versus 24-year-old rookie. I don't think it's as big of a difference. Just because dynasty, I try to not think too far ahead. I'm not thinking 4 or 5 years ahead, but the next 2 or 3 years. And a 24-year-old, I think the next 2 or 3 years will still be he'll be getting near the end maybe of his peak. But yeah, so I think I'm not too worried about that. The age part of it. I'm not expecting him to be a superstar, and I don't know if he'll necessarily be the full-on lead back. I feel like his rushing has actually been better than kind of expected. I expected him just to be more of that pass catching role. So yeah, I think there is a chance that his value drops if they do go out and trade for someone. I don't know what's going on with Joe Mixon, but yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Joe Mixon experiment in Houston's probably over, but we'll have to see how he recovers from this injury. All right, moving on to our next question here. We've got a 12-team Superflex PPR start 10. We got Malik Neighbors and a 26th third on one side, moving for Marvin Harrison, Travis Etienne, Dalton Kincaid, and a 27 second round pick. So obviously we got a ton of pieces on one side, moving straight for Neighbors. Start 10, still a relatively deep format, more than I think a lot of folks out there play. But where are you landing here? I know we talked about Marv a little bit, but is this enough to get you to move off Neighbors, or are you just holding your asset here?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm a contender and I need some pieces in my lineup, maybe I move off of them, but for the most part, I'm not going to move off of Neighbors. If Marv develops and becomes that elite wide receiver, this would definitely be a good trade, but Neighbors has proven it right away. So yeah, the injury's tough. It's gonna be hard to contend if you had him, but yeah, I would think I would stick with the Neighbor side in most cases. Again, just barring that you're a contender and you actually could have a shot if you add those, add ETN and Marv especially. But yeah, I think I'm taking Neighbors most of the time.
Totally. I think I'm with you here. I think to move off a premium asset like Malik Neighbors is quite hard to do, even after the injury. I think I want to springboard off that one for a second. We're at the halfway point of the NFL season. Already seen a crazy amount of movement in these wide receiver rankings. I was having a conversation the other day. Jackson Smith-Njigba flying up the rankings. Hard to say he's not a top 5 dynasty wide receiving asset to have at this point. I hate to put you on the spot, but JSN or Malik Neighbors in a vacuum, which one are you taking as a dynasty asset right now?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Man, yeah, I mean, I feel I don't know. Jackson Dart, he's shown. I feel like he's shown some good things. I think part of it is for fantasy is rushing. He's not necessarily that he's been super accurate and throwing like crazy, but we've
Totally.
seen Neighbors do better with worse. I feel like so.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that situation. I think I'd probably stick with Neighbors, but it's not really you're not really going to lose out if you're choosing between those two guys. So
Totally. Luckily, that's a that's a spoil of riches if you're trying to debate between the two of those guys. So,
yeah.
you can't lose either way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got our next one here coming through. It is a 12-team Superflex PPR start 11 this time, so we're back to a little bit of a deeper format. We're talking about a 26 first on one side, and actually I did this trade, so I know it's a projected late 26 first. Moving for Geno Smith and Stephon Diggs. Where do you land on this one? Because Geno has had quite the tough start to the season. Diggs is sitting at wide receiver 25 right now and, could continue to ascend, could sit somewhere in the middle. If you're a contender, are you willing to send your late first for these two pieces if you need them in a deep superflex format? Or are you just holding your first and saying, that's okay, I'll ride the season out?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm a contender, I guess it kind of depends on exactly what your quarterback situation is. If you've got 3 guys that are better than Geno, it's not necessarily going to move the needle because if he's someone that you're going to need to kind of start, that's tough. But I would probably want the quarterback if you're desperate. So and contending. So yeah, I guess if that's the situation and you are a contender and it's going to be a late first, I might go Geno and Diggs. And just go all in for this year and see if that can help you.
Yep. Ironically, like I was saying, I actually made this trade. I myself had 4 quarterbacks on the roster, felt comfortable moving Geno to go ahead and take an extra first, but the other team contending absolutely needed the assets. I walked away looking at it as a fair trade. I think personally that quarterbacks are starting to get a little bit undervalued in Dynasty, especially in these superflex formats. It seems like people forget that quarterbacks are still your number 1 scoring asset in a superflex format. I guess in a vacuum here, like, where do you view the Geno Smith situation in Las Vegas, right? Like, would you still pay a first for Geno Smith if Stephon Diggs wasn't in the picture coming off that extension with Pete Carroll? Or after what you've seen from him for the first half of the season, are you starting to get a bit more wary?
Yeah, it's been tough. I do on my Substack, I do like a buy low, sell high, and waiver wire thing, and I've been putting Kenny Pickett on the waiver wire ads for a while, just because I'm worried that at some point they're probably going to mix things up if Geno continues to not do so well. But yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like in the situation with this trade that you made, the other guy like needed the quarterback, which again, it's a bad Geno where you only get to 8 to 10 points. Might be a lot more than whatever your next best option is at your superflex spot. If you're putting your 6th or 7th best running back or wide receiver in that spot, totally. You might not be able to get that 8 to 10 points. So I think it can be worth it if you are trying to make a push. But I think just for Geno, I don't know that I would give up a first unless I had a really good shot and was just missing that one piece of a quarterback. Because it's not looked good and he's older and yeah.
Yep. No, I can see that. I mean, Geno's been almost Tua-esque at times this season where one week you're getting single digits and the next week you're getting 33.5 points. It's just been a frustrating roller coaster. Let's dive into the next one here, and then we'll talk a little bit about you, Dan, and introduce you to the people. But I got a 12-team Superflex PPR Start 10 format. We're talking about Jamar Chase today, and a guy who everyone seems to love and want to own in Emeka Egbuka. Now, obviously, crazy start to the season here. Egbuka still sitting at wide receiver 7 overall at the halfway point, even though he's had a little bit of a down few weeks here. Where are you landing on this trade? Is Egbuka plus a first in the 27 class, which people also really seem to like, enough for you to move off Jamar Chase here? Are you buying the hype, or are you just holding Chase and not taking the flash in the pan?
Yeah, the only way I feel like I'd be tempted to take the Ibuka side is if I was pretty certain, which is hard to tell a year out, but if I was pretty certain that that 27 first was going to be like a top 2 or 3 pick. Um, if you're in a league where you feel like you could, then maybe I'm tempted to do that, but I'm probably taking the Chase side, 95% of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'm going to lean the Jamar Chase side. I think the Egbuka experiment's been super fun for all of us to watch, and I think he's a wildly talented player, but I think people have such a short memory in fantasy football. Jamar Chase has been doing this for a long time, just signed the massive extension. It's not like he's aging out anytime soon. So I think I'm rolling with Chase pretty comfortably here. I do want to hold on the Egbuka topic for just a second because there's a trade that I've been throwing around a lot that I saw go down in one of my Dynasty leagues and have suggested to a lot of folks. The main 2 first-round rookie wide receivers this year, right? Tedero McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, right? Where do you land between the 2 of them? Just to set the stage, the trade I'm talking about here that I saw and loved and have been trying to execute myself in one of my 20-plus leagues is Egbuka in a second for Tet in a first. I think I still prefer the Tet side ever so slightly, even 1-for-1 for Egbuka, but I think Ibuka's stock's risen so much in the eyes of the Dynasty market that you're able to get Tet and execute a pick swap. And in my mind, I think you're coming out with the better receiver potentially and the higher pick. But where do you land on Tet versus Egbuka in a vacuum in general? And then how do you feel about executing a trade like that?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah, I might still lean Tet a little bit. It's a much tougher situation. I think Ibuka's in a good spot. Now with Mike Evans hurt, Godwin, I don't know exactly, when or if he's coming back. And so I think that was the downside of Ibuka. I think if people knew that, kind of could forecast that Evans and Godwin weren't really going to be in the picture much of the season, I think he would have gone way higher in rookie drafts.
Yep.
I think I'd probably still lean McMillan a little bit, especially if in this case you're getting a first. If there's a chance that there's a wide gap where it's not like a late first, early second.
Yeah.
If there's more of a gap than that, I think that makes a lot of sense to go for that. I love Aguka, but yeah, I think that's a good deal if you can get the Tet side.
Totally. Awesome. Well, Dan, I've not given you a proper introduction here, so tell the people who you are today. What are you doing over there at Winning Dynasty? What's your background? You play in a lot of Dynasty leagues. How'd you get into it? And we'll start there.
Yeah, so I've been playing fantasy football probably almost 20 years now. I'm 32 years old, probably started in like 7th grade. So I've been playing for a while. I didn't start playing Dynasty until like 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'd heard about it a little bit. Hadn't had any friends that had played it, so I kind of dug into it and convinced a few of my friends to make a small 8-team league. And so it's a little bit different, but started that way. And then I got my core group of guys from college that we've got a keeper league, we've got like a guillotine style league, we've messed around with some other stuff. Got them pretty much all on board to do a dynasty league as well. So we got a 12-team league there. So that's kind of been my experience with Dynasty. But a few years ago, like I wanted to just kind of learn more about it because it's just in fantasy in general, but specifically Dynasty. Like I feel like there's a lot of strategy and some things that are just different than if you're just playing a casual, redraft league. And so like I wanted to kind of start doing some research and I was like, I should just document this and kind of share. So started this Winning Dynasty. It's mainly a Substack. I'll post stuff on TikTok and Instagram and X a little bit, but mainly it's the Substack. and it's a lot of it is research and stuff that I'm researching and learning and sharing kind of what I've learned. In season, I'm doing some stuff like I mentioned before, like waiver wire specifically for Dynasty, which can be kind of a brutal article to write some weeks because there's not too much going on there usually. But trying to
Totally.
look and project and find some deeper guys there. Um, and then just talk some of that stuff, but then still trying to focus on Dynasty like strategy even in the middle of the year. Um,
Well, let's talk
and so
about
I've done a
dynasty
couple.
strategy
Yeah.
then for a second. I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, how do you feel like you play dynasty different than other people, right? Is it like, I'm sure just like myself, you consume tons of these creators out there and them talking about their dynasty strategy or which players they like. What do you feel like sets you apart or that you seem to see the market differently on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing that I do, this is maybe kind of more just like a strategy that I've done and I think it's helped me to make lots of trades and make good trades. Um, I try to approach it like unless there's something specific that I'm like I really need this. If I'm just like, hey, let's figure out a trade, let's figure out a way to make my team better. Instead of kind of looking at like what I need, I'll go out and look at other teams in the league and it's like, all right, what do they need? How can I help them to make it like a really mutually beneficial trade, and kind of work backwards that way. And so I feel like that has helped. I feel like not a lot of dynasty players necessarily do that. They just kind of look, all right, I need this. I'm gonna go out and just see someone that has that player that I need and go try and trade for them, whatever I can get, um, or give for them. I try to do it the other way around, so that way they feel better about the trade, and I feel like that's helped me, make multiple trades with certain owners because it just we both get something out of it and work through it that way. So
Totally. I
that's just
like
kind of an
that.
approach I've taken.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Well, talk to me then about what team you follow in real life. Who's your NFL allegiance lie with? And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the current state of the team. But who are you a supporter of?
Yeah, so I'm a Patriots fan. I've born in Boston, grew up and still live in Massachusetts. So
Nice.
Patriots fan. Fortunate to have grown up. I was about 7 or 8 years old when Tom Brady took over for Drew Bledsoe. And so it was certainly a fun time to
Yeah,
to be a Patriots.
you've had a hell of a run, and now you get Drake May coming in, firing hot this season. So let's talk about a couple Patriots assets in the sense of dynasty fantasy football, real quick. All right, I'm gonna pick your brain. A guy I loved coming out of my home state, I followed closely in the Pac-12. Rest in peace. Was Kyle Williams.
Mhm.
He's unfortunately not really had the start I was expecting out of him. Was really hoping for big things. Where do you see the Patriots wide receiver room currently? How do you view Kyle Williams as a dynasty asset? What do you have him ranked at as far as would you trade a second round pick still to get him? Are you selling him for a third and you're already giving up? Where do we land on Kyle Williams in that Patriots wide receiver room?
Yeah, I have a hard time because I just know that we're terrible at drafting wide receivers. And so unfortunately, he got drafted by, by the Patriots. So I'm not super high on him. Just I didn't dive too deep into him as a prospect. Um, but just I know that we have a hard time drafting successful wide receivers. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess if I could get a third for him, maybe I would do that. Um,
How
I don't
about
have
how
him in
about
any
Kayshon
leagues, so
Boutte? Let's talk about him for a second. A guy that I was not on my radar at all. Still didn't, still not buying him in Dynasty necessarily because I don't know how to value him. Do you have any insight on that? Where do you look at him in that roster? Do you think this is the real deal and he's a potential wide receiver too for the future for this team and you suggest adding him to your roster? Or are you sitting in the camp of, well, he's caught some touchdowns, he's been productive for us. I don't think he's the long-term option. I'm probably just going to hold my picks and not go spending. Where do you land on Kayshawn?
no, I like him. Yeah, I think coming out of college, I don't remember too much exactly, but I feel like there was like some just issue, like off the field stuff, maybe that kind of prevented him from maybe going higher than he could have. So I think he's good. I think what you said there, like if he's our wide receiver too, I feel pretty good. Right now, I mean, Diggs has been fine, but it kind of almost feels like in some ways that Booty is our number one wide receiver. So don't love that, but yeah, I like him. I think he's solid. If we can get a good, again, we're terrible at drafting, so I don't know. Maybe make a trade for a good 25, 26, 27-year-old wide receiver in some way or in free agency, get someone that'll be a little bit more ideal. But I mean, I've seen obviously, going back to Brady, like we had some great wide receivers sometimes, but we also had some times where we didn't really have anyone that great and made do with it. So, obviously the better receivers, the more ideal. But sometimes if you have a bunch of guys that are all like pretty good, it's hard for the defense to really identify where to focus on, and so you can get away with it. But that makes it tough for fantasy too. So I think
Makes
that's
sense.
the
Well,
downfall.
last guy on the New England Patriots that I got to ask you about here, Travion Henderson. Everybody was so high on him in the rookie draft. He comes out in the preseason. He returns that massive kick return. His fantasy stock goes even higher, through the moon. Now you've seen Mike Vrabel just completely avoidant to get him involved in the game plan over the first half of the season. As a dynasty asset, where are you landing on Travion Henderson today? Is he a buy for you? Is he a sell? And what are you willing to give up to get him or get him off your roster?
Yeah, I would. I think I would still buy him. I think it's still early. Yeah, it's funny. Like I feel like sometimes coaches are just so like one fumble and a guy is just dead to them. Where Ramondre apparently they can fumble like 20 times and he'll be fine. But I think Henderson he's still young and I think he's gonna have his moment. Maybe it's not this year. But I think he's still just so good that I wouldn't sell him. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can get for him right now, but I imagine his price is just going to go up. I don't
Well,
think
let's
it's going
just
to go
say,
get much worse.
everyone drafted him as an early first, right? He probably went 103, 104 in your rookie draft. I'd say pretty confidently. I did so many startups this offseason and too many rookie drafts to count. So would you say you'd be comfortable sending a 26 first? Let's say it's projected mid, so 105 to 108 range for Travion today? Or are you just saying, I'll re-roll in next year's class?
Yeah, I think I would keep him still. I think I would need a little bit more than that. Just because I think the potential is there. If he, maybe he never is like a bell cow back for them, but I do, see him. I think the ideal and what people thought would be it'd be kind of almost a Montgomery and Gibbs situation where he's the Gibbs and Ramondre or whoever is the Montgomery. I think there's still some potential for that, but yeah, I think I'm still optimistic. It's been disappointing that he hasn't gotten more work, but they drafted him so high. I can't imagine they're just going to give up on him, and he hasn't really shown that he hasn't been good. He's just not getting the
He's just
opportunity.
not getting the opportunity. I'm with you there. I mean, let's play a quick little game. It's one of my favorites, the Would You Rather game, all right? Quick
Mhm.
rapid fire here. Are you taking Travion Henderson or are you taking Zay Flowers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, obviously there's, depends on the roster, but I think I probably take Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I think I would wait out on him a little bit longer
All right,
over
let's say I
Flowers.
come into your inbox. I'm offering you Matthew Golden and a 26-second projected early. Are you taking the package or are you taking Travion Henderson still?
I think I'll still keep Henderson. I'm not super high on Golden. Like I said before, like the Packers wide receiver, they're just tough. And I think I still stick with Henderson.
Okay, now last one. I'm going to offer you Kyron Williams straight up coming off the extension. Are you taking Kyron Williams or are you sticking with Travion Henderson and saying, I'll wait it out?
Ooh, that's hard. I mean, if I have any chance of contending, I probably would take Kyron.
There you go. I,
If I'm not,
I
I
had
have
to
a chance.
I
Then
had
I'd
to
probably
find your
stick with.
line there. I had to push you a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
No, I appreciate you playing along. All right, we're gonna dive back into a couple trades here. For my redraft folks out there, don't go anywhere. We're gonna be doing a rapid fire redraft segment, a new segment on this show in just a few minutes. So we'll go ahead and get through a few more dynasty trades. We'll dive into our redraft segment for those of you that are redraft players. All right, next dynasty trade on our list here. We're continuing on the Jamar Chase train. We've got Malik Neighbors, a 26 first, and a third for Jamar Chase. Now we were talking about tearing off Jamar. You said Amika wasn't enough for you. Is Neighbors plus an extra first enough for you?
I think I might. Again, situation. If I am have a chance to contend this year, I want to win a championship. So I'm going to probably keep Chase. But if I'm like a borderline playoff team, or certainly if I'm down at the bottom of the league, I might do that. Take Neighbors and the first um, and see what I can do with that.
Yeah. like you said, I think the thing here for me is it's all format dependent, right? Like since we're playing a start 10 here, I would actually take the neighbors in a package side just because I would hope that with my, extensive rookie research, I'm able to hit on a draft pick here that neighbors plus another first rounder does standard deviation wise outscore what Jamar Chase has given me. But in a vacuum, I think if we're talking about a start 8 or a start 9 format here, probably just holding Jamar Chase. So this one for me comes down a lot to format. Just curious, sometimes I talk format on these shows and always like to assert my my favorite style to play. Do you have a favorite Dynasty format that you like to play? Are you I only play Superflex, or I only play 12-man, I need it to be start 10 or deeper? Where do you land on this? Little tight end premium or some bonuses in there? What's your favorite, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the two leagues that I'm in. Both are super flex. One's, like I said before, only an 18 league. I found seven kind of core guys, and I could have asked a few more, but I had a feeling like they wouldn't stick around. So I was like, I'd rather just have 8 guys that are gonna stick in the league. So it is a little bit different. The other one's a kind of a more standard 12 team. I don't do any tight end premium scoring. I'm not against it. I just don't have it. I think it definitely adds something to it. The 18 league that I'm in, we actually start 2 tight ends to kind of counter the smaller league. But I like super flex. I think otherwise it's kind of feels kind of weird. Quarterbacks not having as much value.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely prefer the bigger league. The 18 league, it is fun. I like it a lot. But,
yeah. No, I'm a big super flex guy. I won't play in a league if it's not super flex at this point. I just think it's far more dynamic. On top of that, what you said about the 2 tight ends, couldn't agree more. My format, if you play in a listener league with me, you already know I am always a 12-team, start 11, start 2 tight ends. I play a tight end premium of 1.75 with a half-point first down bonus, so a lot of the tight end catches end up being 2.25. Very heavy tight end format, but I find that really tends to equalize all the positions. When you're talking about a start 11 super flex, obviously the quarterbacks are going to matter, the running backs matter, the wide receivers matter. You add the 2 tight ends with the premium. Suddenly you're watching George Kittle move for Michael Penix, and you've got trades happen cross-positionally everywhere. I just love it. But, yeah, here we are. All right, on to the next one. We'll go ahead and dive into our 12-team Superflex PPR Start 10. We got Ladd McConkey in a 27 second-round pick on one side, moving for Jordan Addison, a 26 first, and a 4th. So this is actually a very close one. I think Jordan Addison has looked really good since coming back from his suspension here, regardless of the quarterback play in Minnesota. Ladd's kind of had a roller coaster of a season where, started slow, people were down on him. Now he looks like the Ladd of old. Where do you land on both these players? Is the pick swap enough for you to get it done? How do you value Ladd and Jordan today?
Yeah, no, I definitely like Ladd a little more. It has been tougher. I don't know, like the whole Quentin Johnson thing. He kind of started off hot. A lot of it was touchdowns, but I think he's going to be there to stay. I think he'll still be solid. Keenan Allen's not going to be there forever. I like Trey Harris. He could end up being more of a piece of that offense. So I think in general I like Ladd a little bit more. But I think not enough that I think having the 26 first, especially because it's a 26 first, that's someone that I can put in my lineup potentially next year. Whereas the 27 second, like one, it's a second, so it's more of a gamble, and it's in 2 years from now. So, I think I probably would go the Jordan Addison side, just because I think that you can get, you're gonna have 2 guys in your lineup next year with that.
Yep, I could totally see that side of it. I think we're going to have our first disagreement. I'm going to slightly lean Ladd. I think it's just that, based off of where he was valued last year in startups, I think on the open market, I can get more for him if I'm going to try to tier up here. But to your point, I'm actually a massive Jordan Addison fan. I think he is one of the most disrespected assets in Dynasty. I mean, when you aim to take your first round pick, right, you're hoping that you're getting a top 25 asset right out of the gate. Jordan Addison, first 2 seasons, wide receiver 21, wide receiver 23, playing behind Justin Jefferson. He's had a different quarterback every single year he's played. Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, now, an amalgamation of J.J. McCarthy and Kirk Cousins here and Carson Wentz. But it's like all these things have shown you that Jordan Addison, if he is either someday the wide receiver 1 in Minnesota, has all the upside in the world. Or if he goes somewhere else, not behind Justin Jefferson, could be a true wide receiver one. And like you said, getting an extra first on top of this. So I think a large part of this trade, too, is going to come down to where that first lands. If this is a top
Yeah.
3 pick, I think you got to take the Addison side and not even think twice about it. So I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm with you there. All right, we're going to hop into the next one here. We've got a 12-team super flex start 10 again. It's a Jalen Warren, Ladd McConkey, a third and a fourth for Zay Flowers, a first, second, and a third. So again, wanted to try to pair them together here, testing the Ladd values. We got Jalen Warren on one side this time, though, a player we haven't talked about. Where do you land on this trade? And then talk to me a little bit about Jalen Warren and where you land on him.
Yeah, I think like this one, I would say, if I am a contender, probably lean the Ladd Warren side just because they'll definitely help, make that playoff push and contend this year. Flowers will too, but all those other picks aren't going to do anything for you this year. So, but I think if I'm not a serious contender, I probably will go the Flower side. I've never been huge on Flowers, but I think he is solid and he's young. That 26 first again like I said before, it depends on where it is. If it's going to for sure be a late first, not as excited. But if there's a chance that it's even just like a top 6 or 7 rookie draft pick, I probably lean the Flower side. So yeah, I think situationally, it's just if I'm a serious contender and especially if I need the running back help. I think Warren's solid. He's not great, but he's someone that you can throw in as your RB2 and probably be happy about that most weeks.
Yep, I'm with you here. I think, like you were saying, completely dependent for me on where this first round pick is. If it's a top 3 pick, fine. Give me Zay Flowers. I'll re-roll. If not, I got Ladd McConkey pretty heavily above Zay Flowers here. I just don't love the volume in that Baltimore offense. They've never really shown me enough in the passing department to get me out of bed in the morning. And at that point, I'll just take Jalen Warren rather than the second and the third and say, hey, I got a solid RB2, like you said, for the rest of the season and consider to ride it out. Not to mention the Caleb Johnson experiment has not gone to plan. So Jalen Warren could be a lot more relevant than we think for the long haul here. Springboarding off that one, where are you on Caleb Johnson? Are you throwing in the towel already? Does this look like a bust of a probably first-round pick in your rookie draft or early second? Or are you still swooping him up for pennies on the dollar? Because I've seen him go for as little as a third and fourth round pick already.
Wow, yeah. I don't have him anywhere. I liked him. I wouldn't say I'm out on him. It's tough when you have if it was just Warren was kind of dominating and Caleb was getting a little bit here and there, but the fact that Gainwell's getting so much work and Johnson's clearly the third guy there, that's tough. I think in this trade that we have next with Johnson, I think I would take the other side. I would buy him though if I could trade him and get Caleb Johnson for a third or fourth. I think I would probably consider doing that. But I don't have him in any leagues.
Totally. Well, like you mentioned, great segue. We're going right into it. We're going to talk about Caleb Johnson here. So we got a 12-team Superflex start 10. Again, it's a PPR format, but 2 guys that are either completely forgotten or have almost no dynasty value right now, depending on what league you play in. Brandon Ayuk on one side, the forgotten 49ers wonder that's making over $30 million a year and makes me laugh as a Seahawks fan. Or Caleb Johnson and Jalen Royals, a guy who is getting plenty of preseason hype but has done next to nothing for the Chiefs so far in his rookie campaign. Where do you land on this trade? Are we out on Ayuk? Are we in on Johnson? Are we out on both? Are you looking at this trade and saying neither of these guys are even relevant to me? Where do you land?
Yeah, I think I'd pretty easily take the Ayuk side here. Yeah, I'm definitely not out on him. I think he's pretty undervalued. It's been hard because we haven't really seen much. It's been a while since we've seen him. They got periods. The team's totally different. I feel like from whenever he last played. So it's a little bit tricky. But yeah, again, Caleb, I'm not aggressively trying to go out and buy him. I would take him if I can get him for cheap. But I think I hope that Ayuk can return to close to at least he was a high end RB. Running wide receiver too.
Yep.
For a couple of years in a row. I'm hoping if he can even return to 80% of that, I think he's going to be much more valuable.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I haven't seen enough out of Caleb Johnson to get me excited. Wasn't the biggest fan of his prospect profile either, so nothing there that's exciting me on that side. I don't think Jalen Royals sees much action for you in the future here anyway in a crowded Kansas City room that has plenty of offensive options. Let's stay in San Francisco for a second. We're talking about Brandon Ayuk. How do you see the rest of those wide receivers shaking out here, and where do you value them? Like, let's say you're a contending roster today. Are you giving up a second-round pick for Juwan Jennings anymore? I saw that trade go down a million times in the offseason. Now, I'm not so sure. I offer you, let's say, a mid-second-round pick. Are you taking that for Jennings, or are you willing to send it for Jennings if you're contending?
Yeah, it's tough. I've never been super high on Jennings. Yeah, I mean, if I'm a contender and I need the wide receiver help, maybe I do. But I think just thinking about the fantasy playoffs, I have no idea what Ayuk's situation. It sounds like he's nowhere really close to being ready, so he might not even be back. For the fantasy playoffs, who knows? But I don't know about Pearsall. I have a lot of Pearsall. I like him.
Well, that's the next question.
Yeah,
Let's just dive right on into it. Tell me a little bit about where you land on Ricky Pearsall. I certainly have my opinions here, so we might end up disagreeing on this one. But I want to hear where you value Ricky Pearsall. Like, would you sell him for a first round pick? Are you sending a first round pick still to get Ricky Pearsall? Where do you value him at in Dynasty today? And then we'll do a little Ricky Pearsall would you rather game in a second here.
yeah. I mean, I do like him. It's been I think he's had a lot of opportunity just with obviously they traded. I think it was they traded or to get rid of Debo, whatever they got rid of him. And then Ayuk being hurt, it's helped give him some opportunity. So um, it's been obviously he's been hurt now lately himself, but I think if I could get him for a late first, especially if I'm a contender, I think that's a no brainer. But he's young enough too that I think he could still be solid. I don't know, maybe a mid-ish first. Um, but I'm not like super high on him that I think he's going to turn into some elite wide receiver. But I think almost similar to what Ayuk has done in the past, where he's been a high to mid end wide receiver too. That's kind of where I think he should kind of even out if he stays healthy and plays kind of more of a full season.
Sure. Well, let's just say I am offering you Cortland Sutton or Ricky Pearsall. Dynasty, what are you taking?
I think I take Pearsall probably. Again, maybe if I'm a contender and I really, but I think Pearsall should have some value, especially if he can get healthy and come back in a week or two. Like he should be, I think, pretty close to as valuable as Sutton. I think for just the season. So and the
How
youth,
about
I would take
how
Pearsall.
about Kenneth Walker? Let's say I offer you Kenneth Walker straight up. Are you taking a 25-year-old running back? Are you taking a 25-year-old wide receiver?
Probably go with the receiver again. Somewhat situational dependent. If I need the running back, it's running backs are hard to get. So if I needed the running back help, I might go him. But I think just thinking long term dynasty, I think I'd rather have Pearsall for the next potentially 6-7 years than Walker. I'm not sure he's going to last more than a couple more years, just being banged up and that kind of thing.
All right, last one. Let me test you on this draft class here. A guy who hasn't shown us much anything so far, but was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Colston Loveland or Ricky Pearsall? Which one are you taking?
Ooh, yeah, that's tough, especially because if you're playing a tight end premium or two tight end league like you do.
Let's just say, for the
Yeah,
sake of argument, the tight end premium is 1.5. Not too heavy,
okay,
but a little bit extra.
okay. Yeah, I might still lean Pearsall. It's hard. Like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to forecast that Bears offense what it's going to look like with all those guys that are there. I imagine. I think is Komet in his last year of his contract. I think he might be. So he might be out of the picture. But I think all those receivers, like we talked about Moore and Burden and Dunze, I don't know how much work Loveland is going to get consistently to be valuable. Whereas Pearsall could be the wide receiver one for San Francisco for a few years.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, guys, thanks of you that are in the chat watching along here. Jake, don't worry, this is not pre-recorded. We are just going through and recording a long-form video here and answering questions that are submitted through the Discord. So if you want to get your questions featured on the next Trade Titans show, make sure you're joining the Discord that is on my website pinned on my profile. We're going to go ahead and jump to the next trade real quick, and this will be our last Dynasty trade until we hop into the rapid fire redraft section where you guys have been submitting your redraft questions. So we've got a start 10 Superflex PPR. Jordan Love on one side, moving for Jordan Addison in a second and a third. And man, when we were talking earlier about buying Superflex quarterbacks, pretty hard to do so without sending a first-round pick. Now, I know you and I both probably value Jordan Addison as a first, so, you're still sending the equivalent value away. But are you taking Jordan Love here? Or are you leaning the wide receiver and saying, nah, I'll go shopping with a second and a third, see if I can bring in Matt Stafford and piece this roster together?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. I think I go Love pretty much every time here. Yeah, I don't really know much of a trying to think of a situation where I would not take Love, because I think he's still young enough that even if you're more of a rebuilder, he could be a quarterback in the NFL for next 10 to 12 years. So it's not like he's aging out or anything like that. So I think he's super valuable.
Awesome. I'm just curious. We got a guy who is ascending wildly this season in Daniel Jones. Only 28 years old. Jordan Love's about to turn 27. Let me just throw in a vacuum for you here. In Dynasty Superflex, are you taking Daniel Jones or are you taking Jordan Love?
I probably take Love. I mean, I think Daniel Jones. I think he's doing well, and I think he is gonna. I think he's legit. I think he could, be their quarterback for the next several years. He does have the rushing upside. I think early on in the season, I feel like he did a lot more rushing. It seems like if they kept doing more of that and he was rushing a lot, I like Jones. I mean, Love doesn't really run much either, but I think I'd probably take Love.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm there with you. I've had a lot of fun watching Danny Dimes play this season, but I do think Jordan Love is still the more valuable asset to hold. Not to mention this Packers offense has looked pretty menacing at times this season. I think the consistency is the thing I'm lacking a little bit there, but I'm excited to see the rest of the season pan out. Well, with that lovely transition here, we're going to move on to our rapid fire redraft section before we tackle the last few Dynasty trades. So rapid fire redraft, we don't have to dig into these too much, but tell me, Breece Hall or Derrick Henry, who you taking the rest of the season in redraft?
I'm gonna roll the dice with Breece Hall, and there's the trade rumors. Maybe he ends up somewhere that's a little better than New York, but even in New York, he's been fine. So I think I go Breece.
There you go. That's why these are good trades. I'm personally going to take Derrick Henry. I love the strength of schedule for the Ravens coming up here. I think what does worry me with the Ravens is that if they continue to lose here, they might just shut Henry down a little bit and try not to put more mileage on him. But I'd hope that the Ravens are able to pull this one together. But I think you can't go too wrong. Love Breece Hall as a dynasty buy. Let's talk about Diggs or A.J. Brown, the guy who can't stop complaining in Philadelphia. Are you taking A.J. Brown or are you riding with your Patriot, Stephon Diggs?
I'd probably go A.J. Brown. I mean, I'm obviously a Pats fan, like Diggs, but I think with the Patriots, it's hard to predict. They throw it around to so many different guys, and it's a different guy every week. With the Eagles, it's more so, are they going to throw or are they not going to throw? If they do throw, it's Brown's going to catch some. So
I agree with you on this one. I'll take A.J. Brown here as well. Next one you can already see right up on the screen here. It's DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin going for Khalil Shakir and Rome Odunze. Where are we landing on this one?
I'm probably going to go Shakir and Odunze. I think today it came out that McLaurin's going to be out for another week at least with an injury, so that scares me a little bit. So I think I'd probably take Shakir and Odunze.
I'm with you here. Tough season for Scary Terry with the contract and then the injuries. Done almost nothing for you. I'll take the package of the players that are actually seeing the field here. Now I've got Bill or Kamara. People do love JCM, but Alvin Kamara has also been wildly disappointing this season comparatively to what we've come to expect out of him in his 10-year NFL career. Where are you landing on these two rest of the season?
Probably stick with Kamara. I know they have a quarterback change. I know he hasn't been doing as well as he usually does and not catching as many passes as usual, but maybe the quarterback change mixes things up and they throw to him more. I actually did I know we're talking redraft, but I actually did a dynasty trade where I traded Bill and a 26 first, which I know is going to be late, for Kamara and a 27 first
Nice.
to another guy. So we'll see how that works out. It's yeah, it was right before Bill had his big game, so didn't feel great after that, but he hasn't been as great since. But yeah, I'll take Kamara.
I'm with you here. I'll take Kamara pretty comfortably. I think I like to highlight it a lot, but if you haven't already taken a look at the Saints fantasy playoff schedule, go ahead and look at those game logs. You guys are going to be very excited about it. Some pretty easy matchups for Kamara down the stretch when it really matters, so I'm going to lean that way. Now we're going to talk about one of your Patriots again. Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker, and Rashee Rice? Or are you taking Devon Achane and Garrett Wilson? This one's got to be brutal after the performances we're seeing from Rashee Rice out of the gate here. Can he sustain this level of volume? Where are you landing?
Yeah, I like Rice. I have him in a few leagues and kind of waited out, and I'm happy I did. But yeah, I probably take Achan and Wilson. And the only reason I wouldn't in redraft is if I have like nothing else. If Achan's my only running back and I'm starting kind of garbage running backs behind him, I might take Stevenson and Walker just to be able to have two guys that I can start and be decent. But I think I probably take Achan and Wilson.
Yep,
Wilson's
I'm with you here.
tough situation. But.
I'm with you here. I think you got to take the more consistent running back. You know, Devon's giving you phenomenal production down the stretch. His PPR upside is fantastic. Has the chance to break any run for a 60-plus yard touchdown. And I was a big Kenneth Walker guy coming into the season. Unfortunately, he's not delivered the way I was hoping. So I think you got to take your better running back here. Last couple, we got Devonta Smith and Harold Fannin on one side, moving for Tyler Warren and Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah, if we're talking redraft, I might do Smith and Fannin. Fannon's been solid. He's potentially their best receiving option. So not a great offense to be on, but and Smith's been solid. You know, Pearsall, like I said, we talked about Pearsall. I like him, but yeah, I think I lean Smith Fannin for a redraft.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'll probably take the package. I mean, I love Tyler Warren. It's almost impossible to get me to move off him in Dynasty right now. But from a redraft perspective, with the Pearsall injuries going down, not exactly sure if I can rely on him too much. Next one, last one, or actually second to last one. But we got Keon Coleman or Jalen Knoll. Two guys who have had flash performances, but we haven't seen a ton from so far. Where do you land on these ones?
Don't love either, but I'd probably take Keon. Knowles, like I actually liked him as a prospect, and I think he could be solid. But for this year, like I don't know exactly what Christian Kirk's situation is going to be like, but it kind of took Nico and Christian Kirk being out for him to have a shot. If those guys come back towards the end of the season, I think Knoll could kind of revert back to not doing too much, or Coleman's hit or miss, but at least he's in a good offense. And if they have some close games, it seems like that's where he can step up and be big. So.
Right on, man. All right, last one. We got McBride and Vidal, or are you taking J.K. Dobbins, Jordan Addison, and Xavier Worthy here?
I have a team. I have at least one team with McBride and Vidal. I'm thinking Hampton's going to be back. Yeah, it might be a few more weeks, but if we're talking redraft and I'm trying to win a championship, I'm probably going to go with the Dobbins side just because I think Vidal might not be relevant in a few weeks, and the other three guys are all guys you can start. So
I could totally see that here. I think this is a really tough one because it obviously matters so much in the state of your roster. If you've incurred a lot of injuries and you need the pieces, I got no issue taking Dobbins. If by some chance you're still healthy and you can afford to get rid of some of these depth pieces, I do think that Trey McBride's the best player in this trade. So I would maybe lean McBride if you can afford to do so. But We've crushed rapid fire redraft. Thanks for coming along for our first rapid fire redraft segment of the show. We'll be hopping back over to Dynasty in a second. But as you guys know, this is my show. I love movies. And so we're going to break up the football talk for just a second before we get through the last Dynasty trades here. Dan, I prompted you beforehand here, but I'm dropping you on a deserted island. You get 4 movies to bring with you. You can watch them on repeat the rest of your life. Doesn't have to be the best movies you've ever seen, but just movies that you enjoy and you feel comfortable taking with you. What's the list look like?
Yeah, I had to think about this because I don't necessarily have like a go-to, like this is my favorite movie. But but like you said, it's not necessarily your favorite or the best movie, but just ones that you could watch a bunch. So I'm more of a comedy guy. So here's my list: Anchorman. I think that's a great movie. I could watch that all the
Hey,
time.
I'm out in San
Uh,
Diego right now. I love me some
oh, nice,
Anchorman.
nice. Dumb and Dumber. I think that's just a classic. Solid movie. And a couple older ones: Airplane and Caddyshack. I put just nice, funny, lighthearted movies.
Hey, that's awesome. I
So
gotta shout out
yeah.
my dad real quick. He's a diehard Caddyshack fan. He
Mm,
loves the
nice.
Caddyshack. That's one of the old school comedies that you'll never get tired of, huh?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Thanks for humoring me, Dan. Appreciate you. It's been super fun. Let's crank out a couple more of these dynasty trades, and I'll set you free. Appreciate you coming on the show. We've got just a couple more here for the dynasty trades. I'm gonna climb back up. We did Jordan Addison. The last one on our list here is simply a 12-team Superflex PPR. We're starting 10. It's Jamison Williams and Xavier Worthy or Cortland Sutton in a 26 second round pick.
Yeah, Williams is just not. He hasn't been as good as would have hoped this year. But I think I probably still lean that side. Um, yeah, maybe situationally, if you're a contender, you feel like Sutton's just going to do more for you this year. But if we're talking just general dynasty, I'm going to take the two young, promising wide receivers in Williams and Worthy. Sutton, I think Sutton 30 yet. He's 20, at least 29, I think.
I think he
He's
just
up.
turned
Yeah.
30, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I lean Williams and Worthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you're an ultimate contender and you really need production today, I will give you my blessing to take the Cortland Sutton side. At least you're getting a second kicked back to you on top of it. But for most every other situation, I'm taking Xavier Worthy. I'm still a big Xavier Worthy guy. I think sky's the limit for him on that Chiefs offense. Now with Rashee Rice back, he's got the opportunity to take the top off the defense at any given time. So I've been liking what I'm seeing out of Worthy. I think he's a good asset. Final one for you, Dan. I know I didn't put it on the prompt sheet, but this is going to be impromptu because I just got an alert in my league, one of them at least. It's a tight end premium league, start 10, but only starting one tight end. I just watched a Rondre Gadsden move for a 26 first. And let me just say, since it's my league and I know, the first round pick is going to be the 110 or later. It's an absolutely loaded roster. But where are you landing on Gadsden? Are you willing to pay a first round pick for him in a tight end premium league just based off the small sample size you've seen? Or are you holding that first?
Yeah, I might do that. And tight end premium. I mean, he looked really good. I liked him. Unfortunately, I don't have any shares of him. I never was able to kind of get him in my rookie drafts. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like that's probably around where Warren and Loveland were going, in a lot of leagues. And so I feel like he's done well. He might end up being better than Loveland, but just how much more he's been productive. So yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind a late first for him in a tight end premium league for sure.
Yeah, right on, right on. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming along with us today. Appreciate you hopping onto the Trade Titans. Dan, the floor is all yours. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you across platforms. Talk about your Substack a little bit, how they can get involved. We greatly appreciate having you on the show, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been really fun. Yeah, Substack's where I do kind of most of my work. So winningdynasty.substack.com. I would say like 50 to 60% of it's just free stuff. So you can just subscribe for free. If you want to dive a little bit deeper and support me, there's a very low cost paid option to get some more stuff, get past the paywall on a few articles, but a lot of it's just free. So just, go check that out. Like I said, I'm doing a little bit of in-season waiver wire stuff. But really focusing a lot on like dynasty strategy and kind of figuring that out. I'll do a lot of rookie stuff as well. I've kind of already started to dig into the next rookie class, but we'll do some of that. And so just posting stuff that I'm learning and finding and kind of sharing that there. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, just at Winning Dynasty, so you can check that out there. But yeah, Substack's kind of the main place for me.
Fantastic. Well, you heard it here from Dan first, guys. Make sure you hop over to his Substack. Check out what he's going on. Knows a lot about Dynasty. Great analyst. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dan. If you guys are watching over across platforms, a like, a follow, comment. All of it helps us grow. Appreciate you guys. Let me know in the comments who you want to see as the next special guest on Trade Titans, as we'll be coming back at you with episode 3 right after this week's game action. Thank you guys again for coming along with us, and we'll see you very soon. Dan, you can go ahead and stay on the call here, but I'm just going to end the stream, and we appreciate you guys coming along with us today.